This is Jason Faulkner, aka Shop Weasel. I'm making this video because I've been provoked to. Uh, and I haven't made one in quite a while, about a week, maybe a little more. A long rant running video of my struggle and articulating the best information I can correlate to try to win viewership and to apply understanding to the people watching my videos to empower myself in so much of a circle, because until I make that circle and am successful at any one of my attempts, I'm never going to get anything out of my just sitting here idle. So I watched a little news this evening on YouTube, and I've been thinking a lot because I feel the noose tightening around my neck again by my own personal life's problems. But at the same time, I am very much invigorated by my personal successes of my developments of my business, Intrest, the Shop Weasel line of products. I often think periodically, what am I doing wrong? Where's my shortcomings happening that I don't understand why I cannot get people interested in my efforts to succeed business wise in my fabulous developments? And it boils down to this, folks. We have a corrupt government, and everybody already knows that, and nobody's going to admit it. But the citizenry has been conditioned to be a dronery, to enact on acceptable cues, acceptable methods to live their lives, such as investing. I seen a news story this evening, several actually, and I'll throw these up at random to let you digest where I'm coming from. First of all, Donald Trump offered America $2,000 stimulus. I instantly knew he's just doing his daily mumbo jumbo because he is a man of no dedication except to his corruption and the affirmative action conduit. So when he openly offers a stimulus to Americans, he's just blowing hot air. But that wasn't enough for this guy. He wants to zig and zag continuously because he has such a vast corruption of empire to maintain. So he instantly, within that week, last week, funneled that $2,000 stimulus to Mexicans in Mexico to get a blip of news generated that there's a revolution in Mexico. Whatever. That really doesn't faze me. It doesn't surprise me neither. This guy's in and out of everything. He's prone to manipulate the media to do anything for him. You never know. That's not that important to me, so I'll move on. Next story I saw was some woman that they stopped in traffic down in Fort Myers, Florida, where the Hurricane Ian destroyed, and has been a staunch communist effort ever since to control the economy that was stimulated through the disaster. They've tightly done so, and above that, our national police are a very highly corrupt, well-funded, mega-funded syndicate. And I saw the story where the woman got pulled over in traffic in front of a Ford dealership today and got shot in the elbow by a Florida sheriff and went ahead and drove herself to the hospital. And they have all sorts of short, uncommented videos of this event because everybody's obediently silent when it comes to powerful corruption such as the justice system and the police, law enforcement, and all this and that. And let me tell you all something. This police force has been engaged in total corruption for a very long time and open terrorism against people and conditioning them to be ringered and hooked and labeled as undesirables and an element that they can control and punk and manipulate for profit, because that's what happened in this case. I have a great feeling that it's just one of these Manchurian citizens that are a dreg. They've been shaped in conformity to be a criminal and controlled by enterprising deputies law enforcement, they enterprise in corruption as a norm. But nobody in society speaks of it because so many have fell by the by the effect of it that they themselves have been trapped in the justice system and have a blemished lifestyle that they've conducted, which they probably don't mind because of the Hollywood media has regurgitated so much fandom of a mafioso architecture, of a criminality embodying our citizenry as a norm. And I've spoke several videos of this, that the government not only controls the legitimacy of our country, but they control the illicitness of it also. And they mash those two sides together and actually amalgam them to give that government back more control and power and wealth beyond your imagination, because now they have the two halves of life. Trying to live life respectable and honest and decent, and trying to live life like a gangster, a bad man, or a bad woman, or a bad family unit, or a mafioso type architecture. And that's what we've got. We've got a clash of society that a total corruption runs both halves of this. And it leaves no room for independence. There is no middle. There is no freedom in the middle as an independent. I can assure you that, because that's what I am. And they have no component. They have no cultivated interest in an independent entity, because they weren't provided any insight or any opportunity to glean that, hey, the third party or the independent people, they really don't matter, because they're non-existent, because we've wrote them off, because they don't fit in our government modeling of total corruption and control of society. Are you with me so far? So the deputy shot the woman in the elbow, and somehow she drove herself to the hospital. Well, that scenario was that the woman was one of the deputy's punks, probably shoplifting and giving the deputy the lion's share of her profit, taking her little bit of money that she ekes out each week, and goes and buys drugs or prostitutes herself or whatever. And she's just a hot girl or a drag, a burnout druggie, whatever. But you got the sheriff up there hollering, we're not going to let these felons roam free on our streets. Well, the sheriffs, let's call them the law enforcement, because, I've seen another story about the U.S. Marshals. Oh, my, that's up there with the FBI and shit, and the CIA. The U.S. Marshals, that's like someone trying to brag on the state police when you have a local corruption problem. I've had people say, why don't you call the state police? Well, because the governor is just as crooked and entwined in all this construct as any of it, as the president, as the local sheriffs, as the detectives, as the crackheads, the drug dealers on the corner. They're all meshed in corruption. Well, the U.S. Marshals recovered 100 stolen children, and they wanted to float a feel-great news story about this, but I'm from Florida. I wasn't born there, but I lived a good portion of my early life there. And they had trafficked 40 years unchecked of endless millions of children. And now we're supposed to drop their history of being a totally corrupt force, the justice system, and abating high crimes for Donald Trump and the governors and whoever wanted to get into that lifestyle and make headway as a corrupt person practicing governance. And I have no respect for them. They could go out and bring 1,000 children home tomorrow. I could care less, because I already know that they've been engaged in the lion's share of the problem itself, and not as the good guys, but as the abaters of it, as the sanctioned dark web of it, let's say, because that's what they really are. And yeah, they stop crime and they pull people over and they sort of check society to keep you from speeding too fast on the highway and whatever. It's a duality there, and most of them are no good. but they're an entity that is there, and it's a super fund of an entity like our space agency, which is shooting endless rockets up, and most of them are oriented around Starlink, as if our very well working AT&T towers don't already provide us good, solid coverage. And it's all under the guise of we need this service for internet and communication, which is bogus. It's really a high-tech weapons platform to read people's minds, and not only read them, but supplement information back into those minds and causes all sorts of stuff. But that's what really further empowers this total corrupt schematic we live in, this affirmative action conduit. It's how they're going to control the zoo. If you don't obey and be a good member of what they say to be, they're going to pipe your pain right to your noggin through their satellites. Or maybe just put the kill switch on you and shut your heart off. Who knows what they can do? Don't really care. But, we got a lot of public manipulation through officials and under the guise of governance. And none of it's any good. I mean, like the hurricane that destroyed Southwest Florida, it wasn't an economic boon to the general average person that wanted to make an opportunity and try to go there to enterprise. It turned into a highly controlled placement service for known scoundrels and scumbags of that archetype. What do you mean? We're decent people. We're legitimate. We have degrees, and I went to school to be this or that, or an architect or a contractor, and I've been practicing for 50 years. You still came out of the affirmative action conduit like a bullet because that's what they funneled you to do. And you're not an independent, I can guarantee you. But it has offended me that I, being a true independent and not affiliated with the affirmative action conduit, to not necessarily change what's going on because it's there and I'm not your savior and I could give a damn less how you feel about anything in this world. I know you're probably crooked and sit on the fence because that's what most people do, and they play in and out with all the corruption they can safely to enrich their own lives. And, it is what it is. I want to get out of here because I've been stalked and predated on mercilessly for the 20 years I've been in East Tennessee, and it's the same scenario. All 4 judges that have went through this case that has me sweating now, which is not a criminal case, by the way, and it has no merit, but these judges have openly acted corrupt without oversight and could care a fucking less if I complain about it. They control all of my video release viewership, and so does the law enforcement, and they're just dangerously treacherous. And they really wanted me to be a dummy and to bend over and let them throw some charges on me, get a criminal rap sheet so I'd bend over constantly and be obedient to their whims. That's not me. It hasn't happened, and it ain't going to. At the same time, I've never seen a judge act so openly corrupt as this last one that I had a hearing with, who decided, that she had been locked up by logic and the truth, and she pandered to it for so long, and once she was immobilized by it, she just simply took a recess under the guise of getting a bag of Doritos and a Mountain Dew and calling the biggest henchman sheriff asshole into the courtroom to act terroristically against me, unwarranted and unjustifiable, as a force, as a power play of force against me, because they're going to get by with it and they do what they want. And she's a young little scumbag, and she knew that nobody was going to check her over this act except me. And, this is the same county that they tried to conspire to have me murdered also on my own property as the first angle of approach to steal from me and my dad. They seen I was a very defiant independent, And I hadn't succumbed after years to being snared and entrapped by the whims of these of the pillars of society and the scumbags of society. I've somehow managed to dodge both and walk a straight line and mind my own business and survive all these years here, peaceably, mind you. That didn't satisfy them because that's not their motivation. Their motivation is results and total control because they're the Scottish blend of assholes in this country and the Mexican blend in this area and any other blend. The Germans, they're heavy here. And they're not going to tolerate an upstart to live their life here the way they want. They want victims hooked into their justice system, or they want victimization insiders inside their higher echelons that can work their magic to create victims. It's one or the other. Either you're a good victim and a druggie and in the pocket of your local corruption authority, or you're a practitioner of being that corrupt effect. You're the rich guy at the end of the road that runs the big logging company and trucking company and runs dope and drugs to keep the people tied into the whole schematic. Yet you're a pillar of society, and you're gonna be a string puller alongside the judge and the other pillars of the area that are corrupt, the lawyers and the doctors and all of them. And they're all going to play puppeteer, blockading your life into a poverty pimpdom, like mine has been for 20 years. And they don't blink because they didn't start out giving a shit about me anyway. I'm just some stranger that moved here and talked himself into a good deal on a nice piece of real estate and paid 20-year note on it, 15-year note, and starved many a days. And they kept the pressure up and kept starving me until I got more creative and got fed up with it more and more. And I never was intending to sell drugs or get a bunch of girls to be prostitutes or be the bad boy gang leader of the area or any of that shit, or the junkyard mafia scumbags or the old hillbilly toothless moonshine makers. And all of them, I've been in jail over here recently, and I can tell you something. All of them that are in that jail, including the employees and the prisoners, all of them are heavily inundated up to their eyeballs in the most corruption you could ever dream of. It's an ugly scenario. It's an apocalyptic mesh that a person that's outside of that would recognize it and see. It's apocalyptic. It's just that bad. And being subjected to all the terrorism that all of them could throw at me was just pretty heinous. Pretty fucking heinous. So, I can't get quieter about any of this. I have to get louder because they're still coming at me. And I'm ready to leave. I lost my dad. I lived my 20 years here. I never really did enjoy much. Never had much money to enjoy much. Knew the countryside was beautiful. Picked a great neighborhood that doesn't have a lot of druggies in it. But the ones that aren't druggies are still the affirmative action conduit members, and they're like drones and robots, just like the druggies. Just as mean as hell, or could be. And nobody blinks when the rest of the community is doing wrong. Nobody says a word, and they're not going to. So a bunch of crazy shit pops up out of nowhere either way, like it will anywhere. So why not talk about it? The U.S. Marshals, I seen that they rescued 100 children, and it's like legitimizing what, their service amongst total corruption. Well, they're totally corrupt too, I guarantee you. And the FBI and the CIA and all of it. The colleges, that's despicable. And it's all built that way for a reason, to rise up the power of the dronery of effect of the affirmative action conduit. Because the blacks are a very large portion of people, very strong and very obedient to the governance. Even though you might say, no, they're not. Yeah, they are. But I'm not focusing on blacks because this really ain't about blacks anymore. I mean, they couldn't more publicly expose themselves as mostly, for the most part, the same demented, twisted lifestyle as the rest of the people who piggybacked into the affirmative action conduit. All of it. The whole citizenry. It's a driven, hedonist affirmative action conduit. And anything on the outside of that conduit will be starved and shriveled up into a moot life. That's me. But that's not what my life is, because I've developed great stuff and I philosophized and pontificated great things and put them out there. Like Jupiter is our unlit sun, our spare sun. A lot of people are controversial about that and say, well, you're saying that science and math is wrong. That's just another gas stupid thing. It's a repeat robot saying, and I don't challenge that, you know. But Jupiter is an unlit sun. Or any of my other philosophies I've openly, bravely, daringly shared, no matter how stupid or maybe even fake sometimes they were. Who knows? I do like sci-fi. I do understand the mechanism of the imagination and how sci-fi can spark ingenuity in others. So why not every now and then strike a match for humanity, and maybe someone else unaffiliated with me will glean onto my video and maybe give them an idea. Who knows? Why not? But a lot of stuff I talk about, like Jupiter is an unlit sun, is a solid fact that I believe in. And I've thought about it, and it makes sense to me, so there it is. But on the other hand, Elon Musk, the guy who, works as a front man for a $1 trillion siphon, space-oriented, and electric cars, which suck, I'm sure. But whatever. I'm not here to condemn anyone. I'm just laying out the facts. That his $1 million stainless steel milk silo super rocket is just a stainless steel milk silo that has had a bunch of shit bolted to it. And that's the core hub of his excuse to have a $1 trillion siphon from the crooked government system to him. And he's a trillionaire, and whatever. He ain't ever going to accomplish nothing. He's already accomplished what his goal is, to be a front man walking piggy bank for Donald Trump. That's cool. He's had many, like Epstein. And I'm not going to start talking about the island neither. I could care less. I'm talking about my own life here and what I'm doing and what has sparked me to make this very video. And here it is. The next video I saw was a guy fraudulently collecting investments down in Florida, and he got $36 million out of people, and I've seen a lot of that happen over the years. Some Latino woman got 250 million, 300 million, working out of a strip mall. And, here I've been beating my brains out pandering to the weasel shopping bag holder, and I've had zero fucking interest. Zero. No one has said, you've really developed something, and I think you'll make millions. Just stick with it. And I'm going to start spreading your information around too, because I see it works and it's sensible, and you've made all these videos and all this effort into it. And it's just it's not a viable option, a viable, V for viable option in people's consciousnesses, because that's not what they've been conditioned to invest in. And I developed it, I made it, and it works. And it's sensible. And I put the right information out, that we use 1 trillion plastic shopping bags a year. And this repurposes them to save you so much time and effort in your own home that you don't have to waste 20 minutes cleaning a plastic garbage can in your home. That this works so great and it's fast and easy that handicapped and elderly and senior people can use it. It makes sense and it works repeatedly. It's a great design. But I've had no investments because what our crooked, corrupt government drives into the minds of the youth to the seniors to everyone in between is to invest in things that we have sanctioned. Even if it's con artists that aren't offering you real investments, that are only going to get 24, 36, 48 months in prison for extorting millions and millions and millions and billions and billions and trillions, right up to Elon Musk, repeatedly. And you all are going to sit back and you're going to be hurt by these people, and you're never going to be successfully invested in anything such as my product because I don't register as a viable investment. And I should, but I don't, because your college people, your college professors, your high school teacher, the one that molested 50 children for 20 years, the college teacher that's a communist from China, or the South American one that's been an American. He came up, his illegal parents came up, he was born here, and he went on to Harvard. Now he's a college professor X. And they don't have a mindset of, oh, these poor Americans have been so entwined in a losing situation by the hand of their government and by the global community who will never champion the average real independent American because that's not their political philosophies. Or the mobsters, the Italians. They don't wash with independence. They are a family mafia oriented centralized thing. And they have flourished to be elite in that lifestyle. And they will never be converted by any plight of anything other than what they've got going on. Same with the Germans, they proclaim to be the world's superpower people. They have no compassion or compunction or even inquisition, the inquiry of sharing the world, even though they say, oh, you're a racist. Everything's for a reason. But, all these investors, all these retiree investors and people with money to throw around, they can't see a simplistic development as mine being ever a viable investment that could bring them wealth back beyond their imagination. And it is. It is a development that can do that. And it should be, because we use 1 trillion plastic shopping bags a year. But you have all these stigmatized racial groups of people. I never expect to see a black person come up and say, guy, you made a hell of a thing with and I worry about the environment. My family does, and we're rich, and we're doing good. And let's invest in this. It's never going to happen because I'm not black. I don't register in their socialism that our government has built into their mindset, and that's who did it. They have a mindset that has been built to be greedy and self-interest driven. And that's the truth. And the same with all of them. But, you see these investors are short, $36 million. Well, let's look at the lady that faked the blood test. I mean, it went right to Walmart even. Walmart was offering to screen your blood for $200. You know, that corrupted Walmart even that much further, you know. And no, everybody paid, but nobody got the results back. Well, what did she get? 36 months, and she's sitting on billions of dollars still that the government's never going to retrieve because she's one of those higher ups that makes corruption flow down. And that's the way it works. I just figured I'd make this video and to detest the fact that I'm not being taken serious. And I can't get no investors in this, no professional business people, no nothing. And that's just my greatest thing I've done. But I've got other great developments, the UFO Shiner probe and all of that. And, you know, here's the latest rant video from me. You know, we didn't get our $2,000 stimulus, and we're not going to, especially by the hand of Donald Trump. Because that ain't the way he works. He's just a malicious ruler that likes goading people. And probably all these other affirmative action conduit class of people, they knew it was bullshit. Or maybe they did get the $2,000. Maybe they were getting $10,000. Either way, because they're special to him. They hold a special meaning, a special value and worth. But an individual independent like myself, I'll never have a worth in his mindset, not to his cause. Or many, you know, the corrupt judges, the cops. I don't like cops. I don't feel safe around them, and they're dangerous, and they have a modus operandi. And that's to control people under them, the public. They want a long list of people that have been reamed, incarcerated, rehabilitated, and obedient. And that's what they want. And, you know, they've got a revolving door of their dungeon network that they house people in called the prison system and the jails and all that. That's why they pull all stops out with me. You know, they're openly corrupt with me because I've survived all that bullshit and still came out free from that result. You know, I don't have a criminal record. I'm not going to ask people to invest in my product and not make it and not sit quietly and not have it make a profit. If I get investors, I want solid returns and fulfill what I do because I'm old and I don't want to go through all that other stuff. Yeah. There's my video. I'm pretty upset. You watch the news around, you know, this totally corrupt government has this arm on it called the media, and that makes things a million times worse. By having a media that they control the narrative, it makes things so much out of reach. It's like we all exist in space and we just float and we're powerless. And here is this supernatural entity, the government. And it controls what we see and what we do and what we live, how we live, and what we get while we live. And to never get nothing from this sorry government except pain and suffering and abuse and victimized. Well, that's what they got the media for, because instead of saying that I was victimized, they will put the black people up there and say, look, they're still victimized 150 years later. I don't think they ever were the victims, to be honest with you. I've collected so much information, and look how they live their lifestyle now. They're all millionaires, and they're either rappers or sports players or are TV entertainer type, advertising especially. You know, they're product pushers, always with a smile. Go buy a car, go buy some drugs, go buy insurance, the new web trend website thing. And they get paid big bucks for it, you betcha. And they all live in nice houses. I don't know the condition they keep their houses once they're in them. I can't see them having a large abundance of house cleaning syndicate catering to their needs. So I don't know. Don't care. But instead of me being the victim, is the point, the media will always select an alternative class of racial enterprisers, such as the Latinos, the Chinese, the Italians, or the poor this or the poor that, the Scots, these cherry bombs, these ginger snaps. They closed the coal mines down, so they were done wrong, obviously. And they weren't going to open them back up. And, it's just a bad group of people there. It really is. They're enterprising in corruption heavily as they can in a race with the rest of the world. So I'm not gonna worry about making friends with anyone, but to not ever have an investor say, you did great on this, and we're gonna be frank and real with you here. we feel we can make X amount of millions off this, selling these to everyone that we can in the world, because it's the only one like it, and it works so damn well, and you work so hard, and you hung with it, and we want to make money, and we see the golden lining in making money with your product. It ain't happened. They'd rather pollute the fucking world. Trash is everywhere. It's been socially conditioned. Throw your trash out. But on the other hand, government, they put 1 billion signs out saying don't pollute, wink, wink, nod, nod. But the religious columns in their society are like, we're the superior ones and we rule the world, and it's okay to throw that trash out because it's going to decay away in 1,000 years anyway, and it's part of being evil to fulfill our fault as being people. Or who knows what, but they throw the fucking trash out. That's for sure. But if you sell these around to the world, they'll put more and more trash off the ground and into these bags. So I'm Jason Faulkner, aka Shop Weasel, and I'm going to stop this now. And I've given you a long-winded spiel and a lot to think about, and hopefully offended all the right people, and I'll never get any respect out of any of it. So I really don't give a damn. I'm going to drink me a cup of coffee now and chew me a little tobacco, and I'm not going to cosplay, and I'm not going to cosplay. I'm just going to wait and take it day by day. Hope you enjoy my video. If you have any business interests now, feel free to text me. If you're a child, sorry son of a bitch, just keep it to yourself. Don't really want to hear about it. And that's all I got to say. Until next video, which will probably be tomorrow or the next day, or who knows. Jason Faulkner, aka Shop Weasel from East Tennessee. Thank you.